Welcome everyone to a special flashback edition of the Pinnacle Combat Sports Podcast. I'm your host Jim, and as always, we got Dano. How you doing, buddy?
I'm right over here. I'm doing good, dude. How you doing?
Good. I'm all right. Yeah.
Looking forward to talking about this legend, this manimal, this man that we know as Cain Velasquez.
Cardio
One of
Cain.
your favorites. Yep, one of your favorites from the beginning too. You called it from the beginning.
Yeah, way back. So this is going to be a fun one, but before we get into Cain, let's talk about some recent fight news. Anthony Joshua just fought and lost to see, they have so many titles and everything. I don't even know what is it, IBF or
Dude, there's an I in it. But but can I say who he fought?
Yes.
Because I like saying his name. Daniel Dubois.
Daniel Dubois.
Daniel Dubois. Dude, that's a pretty bad dude. We can get to it, but he looked awesome. We could talk about it a little bit. But how much did you watch? Would you watch just the finish, or did you watch highlights from it?
Yeah, just pretty much I've seen basically all the knockdowns in the finish.
Okay, because I think it was three, the third one being the final.
Yeah, I think there was two before. There was one before the finish, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in the fifth.
Yeah, there were two that were close together. I can't remember it really right now, but I just remember it. Dude, he looked awesome. There was a clear speed advantage he had. And I think when you're the same size, that can be a problem. It's an issue when you're similar size and you have clear speed advantage because neither one of you are. I know they say oh, that guy has more power than that guy. I'm like, yeah, but they're both 250. They both have power. It's not I understand what you're saying, but you can see he was getting his jab off right away. And I remember mentioning it to you. I want to watch it again because it almost looked like there was maybe one point. I think he got caught with a right hand that kind of didn't really stagger him. It didn't drop him, but it seemed like his legs he never looked the same after that. And that was before a true knockdown.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to watch it again because I was watching with my dad and we were just watching the way he was moving. He just doesn't. It just looked like every step he was taking he wasn't sure of it. So it just seemed like he might have already been hurt. Or I said, that other theory could be just how it took so damn long for the fight to even happen, with all the shit I was telling you was going on before.
Yeah, explain that.
There was a concert. There's people walking around with these things shooting fire and shit. I'm like I told you, I'm watching. I'm okay, so the co-main event already happened. So what are we doing? What's this whole thing? You could do that when you probably should do that that's the thing too with those cards. They're not exciting like a UFC main card is, because that's the type of shit you should be doing the beginning of the main card, right? And welcome to the main card, they just do it randomly after the second to last fight in between the last one. So it's always weird. You just wonder who's I'd be pissed. You trying to stay warmed up or try to stay ready and stay whatever. And the whole time you're probably just watching the screen, watch people flinging around these fucking fire things. You're when am I going to fight?
Yeah, I get if you want to have a rapper or something, I know Eminem was part of that Bud Crawford fight and stuff like that. If you want to have someone come out with you and do a small performance, as they're walking you out, okay, that makes sense. That's fun. That's cool to see. And maybe it's an extended entrance thing that they do for 5 minutes or something. I'm all for that. But I mean, how long do you think it was in between the co-main and the main?
I couldn't tell you, so I'm going to over exaggerate. It was probably a good hour and a half.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know, dude. It's just too long. It's too long. I just know that. Because it was one of those things you kept popping back and forth because I was watching college football.
Yeah.
And I was trying to plan it out. And I was jumping back and forth. And I'm they're still, I want to say on 2 or 3 separate occasions, I kept jumping back and they're still flinging fire around. I'm this is dangerous.
That's crazy. Oh,
but it was a crazy spectacle, though. It really was. Because Wembley Stadium must be amazing. They're swinging. When they sing "Sweet Caroline" through there, it's just the I think they said 96,000 people. Just the atmosphere is just
crazy, dude.
What is that? What is that like, Jim? That's the
That's
kind I want to go to a fight like that size.
well, Dallas
Once.
Stadium in November. Jake Paul.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say UFC. I was in. I'm
No.
good. I'm good, dude. I don't even want to watch that shit. I just wanna
Uh,
like just I want people to tell me. You just want to like not look at anything and the next day they go, "Wasn't that awesome?" And I'll go, "Oh, he won that. Yes. Yeah, it was awesome." I just hope yeah.
also though with
I just hope he doesn't look 60. That's all. Because
that
there's a reality to that,
that Anthony
you know.
Joshua fight, you said that you heard something with him and Francis about, I don't know where you
I
said.
thought I heard that too. I don't know if it was Francis saying it, but I thought I heard someone talking about how they like it wasn't conspiratorial. They weren't talking like they were doing it on purpose, but they were just talking about how long it took in between. So it kind of just makes you wonder. It's like, well, is that payback? Was that karma? Like karma's a bitch, dude. This shit comes back. So if that it could have nothing to do with him. He could have nothing. He could might not even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I just think it's weird when you have a guy that's like new to the sport, and then like the way they had delays in between of it. It was almost I don't know. You don't want to think too much into it, but
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it definitely could be like an icing the kicker type of situation. You never like. I don't know what the. Well, first of all, I'm sure they probably know time frames if they're going to do some crazy event in between the fights. They have like, well, maybe not. I don't know because pay per view,
do you think
you
so,
have a
right?
good. You're not like restricted to a certain time slot, maybe, but
That's
um,
what I was like about the UFC. You see, they stay to a structure, and that's why their live events are so good
yeah,
because there are very few times where there are like, I mean, sometimes there are like some longer wait times for the next fight, but that's just because they have to stick to the schedule. That's not in a fight dropped out. It's not because of anything other than that. Um, but it's just weird to see that, dude. I always hate that about boxing too. It always has to be this like it's I don't know. I always feel like it used to be more so about the fight than the spectacle, and it became more so about the spectacle than the fight
yeah.
in boxing at some point. Whereas just I don't think it was like that back in the when it was like all those ones I watched like 80s and 90s. I don't. It was the fight. The spectacle was the fight.
You know what I
They didn't
think
need
it
to do the
is?
extra shit.
I think it's because of the how many shows that they do. Like UFC has a show almost every week. In
Yeah,
boxing back in the day during like Tyson, Holyfield, all those guys, they had a thing every week too. They had like Friday night fights on HBO. And now with these bigger promotion where like every fighter has their own promotion company, like Money Mayweather and all these other guys, they're
me
kind of
branching.
like one-off events. So they don't need to be structured. They can kind of like do what they want with them. And like I was telling you earlier on the phone, um, when you do something like that and you have a one-off event, and you have all these guests and all these promoters and advertising you got to do, then all this money you're making, you kind of have to divvy up so that everybody gets a piece of the pot. And then, yeah, like you said, it takes away from the fights. It's more about the event than it is about the main event, you know?
For sure. Because it was like, did you get even a speck of that feeling during the Noche the at the Sphere? I didn't. Like it was a spectacle, and it didn't. They kept things moving. Yeah, there were like these little like short stories they were playing, but it was like how long were they?
They were
And then it
short,
was like
yeah.
straight to the next exactly, and it wasn't. It was just such a different thing, and it was just done so well. And I don't know. I just don't. I just wish, like you said, I wish they'd bring back a lot of those like boxing things. There's a reason why a lot of the casual fans don't know these boxers because they're just not on these. Maybe like you said, have these Friday night fights. Like why don't people know who that dude Better Beef is? Better Beef.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you pronounce his name? Artur Better Beef.
Yep.
That dude is so scary, and he's running out of time too. It's another one. It's like he's like 40 or damn near close. It's like why can't you promote these guys? You can't put on these free cards. You're not going to make money off of the other things that you make.
Well, I think it's also, their man, like think of a guy like Better Beef, right? His manager is looking for the big money fights. So they're not going to go to Top Rank. They're not going to go
Yeah,
to, they're only going to look to the promoters that can bring in, give them $100 million night. You know what I mean? Like, and those are like Saudi Arabia. Those are, Money Mayweather. Those are, I know, doesn't Devin Haney have his own thing?
Or does he?
I'm sure
But yeah, I'm sure
Canelo
they
has his
all.
own thing. They all kind of went in the Mayweather lane in terms of like promoting their own events. That's what Jake Paul's doing. That's, they all have their own thing. But if you start going to like Top Rank, which does have a Friday night every week thing, you're just not going to make the money that you would otherwise. But I think you can have both. I think you can fight every couple months on Top Rank and then have one big blowout event of the year. Kind of like a WrestleMania or whatever. And there's a big event that everyone makes a good amount of money. A title or two are on the line, like they used to do.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know why they
Yeah,
can't do that.
because you even have the UFC's even had free cards that were headlined by a title fight, and that's probably just because they probably looked at the projection of the numbers. They're probably like, all right, so this isn't going to really sell right now. So if it's not going to really be a big pay-per-view seller, why don't we just put that on for free? They probably had some sort of a conversation like that. If there's a certain fighter that's not a yeah, they're a champion and they're great, but it, being a draw that has nothing to do with talent. It's so not about that. It's not. It's just there's something else. You either have like Connor has a whole country behind you, or like there's other fighters just they just have something where everyone wants to see them fight,
Yeah.
and it can't be explained. It's just it's kind of a collective thing that people feel. But um, I don't know. I just for whatever reason I love watching boxing, but I just there's only a few fights I want to. There's only a couple. Might even be a stretch to say a couple some cards. It's usually only one fight you really want to see
Yeah.
because everything else you don't really know people that well unless you're like fully immersed in it, which I'm just not. I know neither one of us are really because we're
Yeah.
more MMA fans. But man, it's I don't know. It always leaves like a some type of a like that fight was awesome though. With that said, like Joshua and Dubois, it was a very very good fight for as long as it lasted. And it just Joshua just kind of probably speaks to how hurt he was. He was just chasing when he got caught because he did land a shot that seemed to like to wobble Dubois, and he just chased him, and then Dubois just uncorked that perfect count. It was like
Yeah. That was nice.
that was pretty sick. So it's great, dude. It's a great win for him. Now, hopefully, he gets a big fight out of it. Now that he already, obviously Joshua is, but now hopefully he gets one of the guys that Joshua was going to get because that's what they were all waiting for. They're
Yeah.
all waiting for Joshua to win so the other guys can. So let's hopefully he gets a fight with one of those guys. That would be nice. But dude, he looked awesome. Big win for him, dude. It might be it for Joshua. Uh,
Yeah. He's had a rough couple fights, or at least the last 5 fights or so. I mean, if you don't count the Ngannou one. Um, but yeah, well, I like Anthony Joshua. I hope it's not it for him.
oh,
But
he's so good. It's not really that. It's more like I would have to ask people that know boxing well. But I don't know. There's just I always seem like his defense leaves something to be. I feel like that might be an issue
yeah,
because he's had certain fights in the past where I don't know. What do I know? Like I said, but I just think of something didn't quite. He just did. He looked like he had no answer for this. Maybe it was overconfidence.
hmm,
Maybe he was just looking at it like, oh, I'm just gonna run through this. It might be that over everything. I think that can be really detrimental to a fighter. That just because I hate that mentality. It's like, well, if you're that guy, if you're that good, just go out and do that. You don't have to say anything. Just go out and do it. It's kind of like with Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva wasn't really like during it when everyone was scared of him. He wasn't really saying anything. He was just going out there and just putting the fear of God into people. You could just tell they were just not like once he started to like download everything you were trying to do, he's like, all right, gotcha. And then 'cause that's what he would do. People were like, oh, he's not doing anything in the first round. Like he's just throwing all these things to see what reaction he gets. And he's just going, okay, he does that when he do that. He does that when he does that. And then next thing you know, you're like folded. Like,
yep, yep.
but we need to get to the man of the hour, Jim. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
The only thing I want to add is that there's a good fight night coming up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
UFC in Paris that everyone should tune into because it's
Oh,
free and it's a really good card.
daytime
Um,
fights. This is a great card. Yes. Yep.
it's going to be a great
Yep.
card. And the main and the co-main event are big, like two big fights for potential contenders for titles in the next.
What's the co? What's the co-main?
Oh my god, let me bring it up.
I'm sorry.
Um,
I can't. I'm blanking on it. Like Saint Denis and Moicano's gonna be
Saint Denis
awesome.
and Moicano, and then the co-main is Imavov and Brendan Allen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man.
so there you
Okay.
go.
I love that. I love that stylistic matchup between those two.
Yeah.
Um, but that main event, dude, in particular. Oh, I know we'll do something for it. Maybe if you have time, we can even do like a pre and post since it's I think it's one of those big ABC ones.
Oh, this is on
Um,
ABC?
it might be, it might not. I might have made that up. Let's
No,
look it
it's
up,
on
Jim.
ESPN Plus.
Mother effer, I made it up, Jim. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
It's all right. You got excited.
You get excited.
But yeah,
Um,
that's a great card, and I'm looking forward to watching that one for sure. And then I think is it the week after? The week after I think is 307.
yes, yep. It's
So
a big
that's
2 weeks.
yeah.
That's
But
gonna
yeah,
be good.
let's get to the main squeeze here.
It's
Man of
drama.
the hour. Cain Velasquez. Just off the bat, man. He's I want to say he's my favorite heavyweight ever. Um,
I think he has to be for you, right?
it's either
Who
him
beats him?
or the only person I'd put over him is Randy. But I think
Okay.
Randy was more of a 205er. I liked him more in 205 than heavyweight.
Yeah, I think of him more on 205 because he didn't just have a trilogy with Chuck. He fought like Tito, he fought Vitor, he
Yeah.
fought a bunch of the 205 guys. So that's what I think of him at too.
Yeah. Um, but then he also Randy fought Brock Lesnar too and did pretty good against him considering the
So
size
crazy.
difference.
Yeah,
But no, yeah,
like a man fighting a mountain. You're like
Kane's
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
definitely my favorite. I think my favorite heavyweight. Um, and he was just so much fun to watch, and I think it also like coincided with like it was just the best time to watch UFC because this is
Yes,
like late 2000s, early like 2010s with Brock especially the heavyweight division with Brock and Frank Mir and Dos Santos and all these guys, Nogueira, like they were just the heavyweight division was crazy, especially
oh yeah,
with
you like
Brock being his personality and everything, and him like leading the way and talking shit about what was it Budweiser or something. Remember he did something with. He's like, no, I'm gonna go drink a Coors Banquet after this or something. I forget what the whole thing was, but yeah, I mean, just that whole time was so fun to watch, and that was
yeah,
also
because you had
during the
like
same. Yeah, that was,
Bigfoot Silva. You had who else was Mark Hunt. You said a lot of dangerous guys
oh
at heavyweight.
Shane
I'm not saying
Carwin,
Dude,
who
Shane Carwin was one of those guys. Like,
Travis Brown. Yeah, it
if he
was
just
nuts.
kind of took a breath in that first round, dude, and just
Yeah, yeah,
chilled
yeah,
out for a second,
yeah,
like that's the type of that's those ones where you're like, man, if the way you guys both hit, you got to be a little more measured and pick the shots a little more because they
yeah.
count so much when heavyweights land. So,
But then
but
also at the same time, you remember like that was the prime time for Anderson Silva. That was
yeah,
Anderson Silva time. That was GSP. That was. I mean,
dude,
it was just so much like Rampage and Rashad and all these amazing fighters, man. Like in every single weight division.
Vandalay, Dan Henderson,
Yeah,
Vandalay,
Bizping.
Pro Cop still around. Like, oh, it was all like the yeah. No, I agree. That was just like the level of talent is so insane now. But as far as like the best time to watch was then. And I'll always say back when WEC was around, WEC always put out a good product.
Yeah,
Every single car, I love watching WEC. I
yeah,
remember vividly how good those cards were
yeah.
because there's
Jens
so much good
Pulver,
talent coming from there.
Henderson,
Oh, and that was when Jose
Uriah.
Aldo was Jose Aldo.
Yeah,
Everyone was scared of him then.
yeah.
Everyone.
Pettis.
Like
Oh man.
Faber, no exaggeration. I thought I heard they said something like he could have lost his leg. That was that bad. Like the way he was taking those kicks. That shit could have went the wrong way. Then the way his leg was like all messed up, like nerve damage and shit. Like that could be like man. Jose Aldo was so crazy. We got to do a flat. We got to do one of him too. And we this is I shouldn't do that. That's nasty to be talking about that while we're doing one for someone else. That's disrespectful to Cain Velasquez. But
Yeah,
we should do one for Aldo.
for
But
sure.
no, but Cain, like you said, Cain was one of the first heavyweights you can remember really putting on people with pace, like true pace,
Yeah,
not just overpowering people and just overwhelming them.
and
He was doing something different.
he was also a guy like you mentioned earlier. He didn't say a lot. He would just go in and ruin your life and just leave, and that was it. You know, like he
That's
didn't.
way scarier, right?
Yeah, he was terrifying, and there wasn't much you could do. And yeah, you knew you couldn't keep up. Like all those heavyweight fights were like over in a round, maybe two, but you know, it was wild, man. Let me get to some of this early life. He
Oh
was
yeah,
born on Cain Ramirez Velasquez on July 28th, 1982. So he's 42 years old currently. He was 6'1", 240, 240, 250 with a 77-inch reach. He grew up in Yuma, Arizona after his family moved here from Mexico. Um, and he was a football star, and I think he wrestled in his high school for 1 year, but he wrestled mostly for Arizona State University for the Sun Devils, where he got first. Wait, sorry. He placed fifth in the country in 2005 and fourth in the country in 2006 in his heavyweight weight class. So he was an amazing wrestler, as if you've ever watched a Kane fight, you know very well. Um, I think he trained with DC and everyone at what's the gym called?
oh, in the what the AKA that was
Yeah,
back in the
AKA.
AKA. That was AKA. It was like it was Kane, DC, Rockhold, and Habib all in their prime.
Yeah, DC, Javier Mendez, Leandro Vieira was the
That
jiu-jitsu
was crazy
coach.
camp,
Yeah.
crazy.
But yeah, he was an amazing college wrestler. Um, and he wrestled with Ryan Bader and CB Dollaway, I think at the same
Oh, that's
school.
cool.
So that's how they knew those guys. Um, and then when he entered the UFC, I have another tab open here. No, that's not the tab I want. His first fight in UFC was UFC 83 against Brad Morris. Do you remember Brad Morris? I
Brad
don't.
Morris. I'm gonna take a look at his little face here. No picture, but I see.
No picture. Okay, that doesn't help.
I mean, it's not a good start. It just says Brad Morris stance unorthodox. He's definitely on. Oh, I'm sorry, orthodox, and he's 0 and 5, I think.
He might not even exist. We don't even. No.
This might not be a real person, Jim, because it just shows that he. No, it does show that he was knocked out by Cain Velasquez in 2008. Um,
Yeah, so it was
yeah,
April 19th, 2008 at the Bell Center in Montreal.
yeah, he didn't have a good career, Jim. This guy, Brad Morris. Let's see. He lost his first fight, TKO stoppage. He lost to Cain Velasquez by KO. He lost to Jason Brooks by KO. He lost to the same guy he fought in the first fight by TKO, but then he got key locked submission, and then he lost to Tony Lopez by rear. Yeah, not a good. Yeah, 0 and 5 it turns out for Brad Morris. But as you were saying, I'm sorry.
But that was at UFC 83, right? 83, yeah, 83 in Montreal. And I bet you can guess who headlined that.
Oh, I got you. I already saw it, so I'm
Oh,
kind
you
of,
cheater.
kind of cheating. Yeah, it was the rematch.
Yep. It was George St. Pierre versus Matt Serra 2. Um, and George was an interim champ going into that. But
That was a
here's
great.
something interesting. So there were two at during that time there were 2 UFC records broken that night. The first, I'm reading this right off the Wikipedia. The first record broken was the fastest sellout ever up to that point. I'm sure they've done a faster one since, but
Sure.
the UFC sold most of the tickets to UFC Fight Club members in the first 24 hours of the Fight Club pre-sale, and the rest of the tickets were sold within 1 minute of the public sale.
Damn.
The second record broken was the UFC attendance record. 21,390 people who packed the Bell Center officially broke the former attendance record of 19,049 set at UFC 68 in Columbus.
In a New York minute, huh, Jim?
Or a Montreal minute for them.
Oh, shit.
But imagine, that's his first fight. 21, almost 22,000 people. GSP, Matt Serra in the main event. Some other fights with Rich Franklin and Travis Lutter, Nate Quarry, Michael Bisping versus Charles McCarthy, Mac Danzig and
Remember
Mark
Nate
Bocek.
Quarry, dude?
Yeah.
That's a name from the past. Sorry, go ahead.
Ed Herman fought on there. Damian Maia.
Fuse. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great. That was, again, like I said, like in the
Damian
heyday
Maia. Wow.
of all these guys that were just so good. And I'm not even sure, that might have been the first time they ever went to Canada. I could be
I'm sure it
wrong
was
about
up there.
that.
I'm sure they probably had something before that, but you never know. Because I know GSP had multiple, but that could have took place after that Sarah thing. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was pretty newly champ when that upset happened, right? I don't think he had a ton of defenses at that point.
Oh, I'm not sure. Well, he was an interim champ there, so
But I want to say he lost the belt and then something happened to kind of lead to the interim. Maybe Sarah was hurt too. I feel like something else happened behind that, but I can't remember because they were doing. You remember when they did some interim belts where you were like, wait, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
yeah.
That makes no sense. But I wonder what that one was for. It probably was an injury.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
But let's see. I'm trying to let me scroll through. Let me scroll through his wins here. What do you think would be now? Obviously, like maybe I should say non-title fight. That's probably the best. Most impressive non-title win
Well,
for
for Cain?
Cain. Yeah, when you watch him, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, for me it was the Ben Rothwell fight.
Thank you. Me too. All right, cool, nice.
Yeah, and then that's kind of
Awesome.
well, he fought Czech Congo before that. I don't remember that fight offhand.
I think he
know I
ragdolled him.
watched
I don't
it.
think it was close, but I think the Rothwell one, it's probably the same thing for you, just because of how big of a guy that was, and he just did whatever he wanted to.
Yeah, and I think they said something up here in his Wikipedia. Let me get to it here. About that Ben Rothwell fight. He was
Yeah.
supposed to fight someone else. Let me see, Ben Rothwell.
Did you see what the headline of that night was? UFC 104 when they fought Cain and Rothwell.
No.
Couple names from the past: Machida and Shogun.
Ooh.
That was a nice little rivalry they had for a little bit there.
Where's Czech Congo? Okay. When he fought Czech Congo, dominant, landing 251 strikes and winning the bout by unanimous decision, 30-27. His next opponent was expected to be Shane Carwin, with the winner likely to challenge for the heavyweight championship. However, that bout was scrapped, and Velasquez instead said he'd be fighting newcomer Ben Rothwell at 104. He defeated Rothwell in early second round TKO.
Dude,
Imagine, that would have been awesome. Shane Carwin and Cain.
I don't remember. I'm sure I remember it happened. Like I just forgot that was even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that fight. Man, I wish that happened. Because then, Carwin could have got put through a fire. Maybe he could have tried to put it out, or he just wasn't that guy for it. That would have been a really good fight for him. Because, like, imagine if he had that, and imagine if he beat Cain.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe he kind of weathered, like, a similar thing happened, like, with Brock. I mean, I don't think you're surviving with Cain if he does that to you, but anywho, like let's just say he could, and he did weather that, and then he kind of came out on top, and then he fought Brock. I'm like, then you're kind of that's a different fight because then you've already been there. But he just looked like he was just like how that must be a crazy moment.
So
Like when
maybe
you have
Shane,
Brock Lesnar hurt.
yeah, maybe Shane
What
Carwin was waiting because in July of 2010, that's when he fought Brock. Maybe they were talking back, like maybe there was some talks in the back, and they wanted Shane versus Brock. So instead of Kane, Shane backed out of the Kane fight because he was going to get a title shot. But I don't know. You never know. But because Shane Carwin fought around the same time.
that that seems to make sense. I like it. I like the narrative you got there.
Because I
I
just
think
looked
that
up Brock's record.
that would make sense, Jim. Because
Yeah.
like that was it was probably a little different of a time when the UFC was they were just going for the big fight a lot of times. You know what I mean? They had a lot of guys that were getting title shots that you were like that they didn't beat anyone in the top, whatever. It was just name basis and what they wanted to do, and they would make it happen. They don't really do that anymore,
Yeah. And then when he
which is
goes
nice.
through, when Kane goes through Noguera, there's really no arguing who's next in line,
No, no,
So,
no, no, no. Especially with the way he did it. I remember that was that's probably one of my favorite knockouts of his. The one when he fought Big Nog.
well, on the Wikipedia it says Velasquez faced former Pride heavyweight champ and former interim UFC heavyweight champ Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira on February 20th, 2010 at UFC 110. Going into the fight, some commentators predicted that Nogueira would take the victory due to a supposed lack of striking power for Velasquez.
How'd
Velasquez defeated Nogueira via
that
first
work out?
round KO, earning knockout of the night honors.
Well,
So
that's
there
when you
you go.
obviously he did win by knockout, but that's when you really showcases his skills as far as his speed. I remember
Yeah.
that combination that ended up dropping him
Oh yeah, he
for
folded up.
that was dude that's not a heavyweight combination usually, you know, but yeah, he was something else.
And then, dude, his fight against Brock was so much fun to watch. The energy, dude. Like
What a wild moment.
see, that's what boxing and UFC. Those are the moments that fans live for. Is the uncertainty of what's going to happen next in the next 15,
Yeah,
25 minutes or whatever it is. Like you don't know what's going to happen, and these guys anything could happen with some of the. I mean, you put Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar in the same ring, and you hit the bell, you don't know what the hell's going to happen.
sure.
And it was like there was so many good fights back then like that, but I remember that like it was yesterday, man. That and Randy versus Brock, like I said, was crazy for me too. But Kane putting him out the way he did, it was like the only, it was reminiscent to me. It was very similar when Nunez knocked out Ronda Rousey.
That one, see, that one felt kind of empty.
Really? Because I knew Nunez, and I'm pretty sure you knew Nunez was gonna destroy Ronda Rousey.
Oh, that's why it felt empty. Like the one,
Yeah, but no one else did. Everyone was saying that, you know,
which was absolutely insane. So I don't
yeah.
get that one. Yeah, I don't. That one didn't shock me at all. Like
Oh no, yeah, it
the
wasn't shocking to me, but it was. I don't know. I
but it was
guess,
shocking to people. They really I was like, have you seen this girl Amanda Nunes fight?
yeah,
She's pretty good, dude. Like she hits pretty hard, dude. I don't know if she's gonna do well. Talk about Ronda like against this opponent, a
yeah,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's bigger than her, who hits harder than her, and is way better striking. It's probably not this isn't a good recipe here.
yeah,
It was even like I remember telling my dad about Holly Holm before she got in UFC, and I didn't call it at all because I still thought Ronda was going to beat her. I was still caught in that like euphoria, but like it was there if you saw it.
yeah.
Like the people that are in the know, if you ask some of those people, they're like, oh yeah, we saw that coming because the way she was putting people away, like she was already like a really good boxer, and then she comes over and she's a really good kickboxer. It's like Jesus, she was yeah, Holly Holm was great.
Well, the
Um,
only reason I bring up Nunez though is because of the way it all happened. Like me and you saw Nunez coming up and knew what was going to happen, and we saw Cain coming up. I guess it wasn't a good analogy because
it's a good one.
what's a
So
good one?
Kane to Brock is like Amanda Nunes when she knocked out Cyborg,
Oh, there you go. That's better
right?
for sure.
Because because it's like they both you knew they both had the power to do it, but like as you're watching, you're like, holy shit, she's
Yeah,
lighting Cyborg up. Like it's just insane.
yeah,
Because she did. Like nothing seemed to. It seemed like everything she threw hurt her, and she didn't get hit with really anything. And just it was amazing.
yeah. And
But
the energy was anything could happen in this fight. So yeah, that's a way better.
it
That's a
truly
perfect
was.
analogy.
It
Yeah,
truly was because that's the thing. As talented as Kane is, Brock could have just smushed him. It could have got to a point where maybe the power and the size was a problem, and all Brock did was just smush him the whole fight.
yeah. Because Brock had done
And just
that before. He'd get inside control and just these short hammer fists for
he
like
can
three
do
minutes.
he can do that to a more talented fighter for sure. But it just looked like, but as soon as when Brock would get him down, he'd pop right back up like this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then like just Kane just started lighting him on fire. It was that was such a what a performance, dude. That's up there. Like you
Yeah.
said, as far as like live moments, I think those two we mentioned are up there for me. It's in a top list. The Kane Brock and Nunez Cyborg. They're just those holy shit.
Yeah. I remember
Um,
after both those fights, I was showing friends on YouTube for like the whole week after, like, you got to see this. Did you see this? How did you not see this? And
it was
then,
like I remember showing a bunch of people like Arlovsky, Travis Brown when that first happened. I was like, dude, you gotta watch this round. Look at this round. This is the craziest round I've ever seen.
yeah. Yeah. That's
But
crazy. And
we
actually,
show enthusiasm.
we
Enthusiasm.
now we have to mention the same thing on the other side was when Kane lost to Dos Santos on Fox, because that was the first big Fox event.
Hmm.
And I think they only played the main event. Um,
Yeah, they were still working out the kinks back then. They didn't have all the production up to snuff yet. They're such a different product now. Like I'm not even saying it was bad. I loved it. I was too stupid to even know what I was watching, if it was
yeah.
good product or not, that wise. But that was when they were kind of,
Well, I think they were
and
in
that's what made
between
it so good.
contracts. They were in between contracts because I'm looking here at the
Remember
card.
Versus, Jim? Remember Versus?
Oh yeah.
Remember UFC on Versus?
Wow. Yeah.
Some old cards back then.
But so
Those are
this
good free
one,
ones.
the preliminary card they called it because the only televised fight was the main event. The preliminary card was on Facebook, believe it or not.
Yeah, they used to do the early prelims on Facebook, I think. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, so that was on Facebook, and then they just, I guess maybe they were trying to sign the Fox deal, and they wanted to see how well that fight would do, maybe? I don't know. Um, Also, both those fights, this one we're talking about now, and the one where he won the championship against Brock, were both in Anaheim, which I think is where he
That's cool.
lived. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
so that's pretty cool for him, to have both those fights be in his pretty much his hometown.
That
But
is
that
awesome.
was
Yeah.
but that fight was crazy. I remember because UFC getting a Fox deal was nuts for fans like us that have been watching for a while, and
Yeah.
then to have that be the main event, and then to have it go the way it did was wild because it
Like
didn't last
60
very
seconds.
long. Yeah, it was a minute four, and
And that was my boy. That was my boy. And then
yeah,
your boy ended up, like
yeah,
Kane ended up beating my boy up pretty good. They had a couple fights. So there was no question on that. But I think, not to make excuses, but I want to say Kane came into that fight with like a knee injury or something. I remember hearing about that after. So
oh
it's not
maybe,
it's not to say that's why. It's not to say that's why it happened, but then they kind of have those other two fights, and you're like, okay, all right. It's just kind of like Junior Dos Santos was one of my favorites, but you could just tell who the guy in that division was at that moment in time, and it was Kane. Kane was the heavyweight at heavyweight at that time, You know, it's a
Yeah.
crazy fight that would have been. Imagine now we always talk about like certain like prime versus prime. How
Hmm.
about this prime for prime, Jim? How about a prime Cain Velasquez versus a prime John Jones? And they're both, let's just say they're both heavyweight at that.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
maybe the John Jones that fought Cyril Gahn, right when he got into heavyweight, he was ready for it, he trained for it, he was prepared to make heavyweight, and then boom, them two. Prime, who wins, Jim?
I don't know. If you ask Dana White, you know what he's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
say. But
Let me tell you something.
well, the thing with Kane was he was so much energy. Like he was he was like the Tasmanian devil when you get in there. Like he's throwing, he's shooting for takedowns. He's like he didn't really there wasn't a lot of off time unless it went into the later rounds. Then he would like we saw a lot more of that later when he fought Dos Santos again. And he was more measured, more calm. But like Brock Lesnar and some of these other like Ben Rothwell, for example,
Mhm.
it was just a storm of fury. And if he fought John Jones like that, I think he'd probably catch him. But John Jones is really great at distance and he's I'm sure there'd be a lot of respect from Kane going into a fight like that, and
Sure.
he probably wouldn't fight like a crazy animal. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd love to see it. I have no idea. I don't
The
know.
only way I'd the only way I'd lead John Jones is because of like one thing that's underrated about his game. I think that's what makes him like not even close to the best fighter I've ever seen. Like when everything's all put together, his submission, his ground game is
Mm,
so. I think it's so underrated. I don't think people know how great he is.
yeah,
Because you haven't really seen it because it doesn't last long. I think that's the reason for that. He's just so. I think he's very dominant in those positions. That's I could see him winning that way. Other than that, I agree with what you said. That's what it'd be such a crazy fight. That's another one I always think about.
yeah, that'd be
You
crazy.
always think about you always think about
Or Kane
some
Tom
type of weight.
Aspinall. That'd be
Oh, dude,
crazy.
that'd be wild, dude. It's yeah. Tom Aspinall's just the new breed. He's like you know he's something else, dude. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'd always think about like, oh, Anderson Silva, GSP, meet at a weight, that fight. Like there was always those fights. Like Habib and Tony Ferguson prime. Like that one's a shame that it never happened.
yeah, for
Um,
sure. John Jones, Francis
there's
Ngannou.
yep, no, yep, that
Yeah,
could still happen.
yeah.
It's still possible, but it looks unlikely because it seems like John Jones is done after this, or
That's what he said
maybe he's
recently.
kind of flirting. Maybe he's flirting.
He
I don't think he wants anything to do with Aspinall.
Yeah, he said that at 306 at the Sphere. He said this is it. This is the last one. So,
Yeah, I don't think he wants anything to do with him.
but if he gets some Francis Ngannou money, say Saudi Arabia jumps in and says, "Hey, let's do this," who knows?
That's the attractive fight for him. I
Yeah,
think he could.
I think Francis for him. I think Francis is an easier fight than Stipe, but
Yeah, because of the distance and like you said, but he can probably get that fight to the ground, and he is just so like I don't. Ngannou will never probably be able to catch up with the just the knowledge of submission like that John Jones has.
yeah,
Like at this
Francis
stage,
isn't going to go to the ground. That's not
no.
going to happen. He's not going to shoot for a takedown. So you just got to not get hit. And again,
Yep.
John Jones is great at distance and all that, but I don't know. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't. But yeah, Kane versus any of those guys, man. Oh, I don't know. I want to say Kane so bad, but that's the thing. You never know. Even back then, him against Brock Lesnar could have went a different way. Him or Dos Santos went the way it did, and then it went a different way the next time they fought. You don't know, especially when you're talking about that much power, and
You never know.
that's why
True,
heavyweights
but
are
it's
so
just
much fun to watch, even in boxing. Like you saw it the other night with Joshua. It's like it could have went a different way. It's just I love that stuff, man.
I
It's
just
crazy.
I think with a guy like Kane, that what made him so crazy was that he was just the total package was just so much, and it was so much to deal with that it's like you have the guy that's a knockout artist. It's like, yeah, so that's what he's gonna do. But Kane could just you don't know what he was gonna do.
Yeah.
Like he could just kind of ragdoll you all night, or he could knock you on the feet. He just did. There was so much more he could do to you, and you knew he had submissions in this game, but it just seemed like he'd rather hit you. It just seemed like he'd rather do that. So,
For sure.
but that's why those knockout artists aren't as scary as a guy like Kane, because Kane will just literally wherever you're going, he's gonna follow you there, and just everything he's doing is to do harm, as opposed to a guy that's kind of more wants to be on the feet, more power, like the Dos Anjos. You kind of wish he never Dos Anjos. I'm sorry, Dos Santos. He never really tried to change his game as a response to dealing with Kane. I think when those things you got to kind of bring something different,
Yeah.
and he didn't really. It's just Kane just kind of just did kind of at will and figure it, especially in that third fight they had.
Yeah.
It you could just tell who was uh who was king at that time, dude. And it was Kane, dude. He was something else. I couldn't believe, like, yeah, you watch some of his fights.
But
I
dude,
don't
I
know if
think
you'll ever
like
see a heavyweight like that again.
I think Kane being having that like hardcore wrestling background, I believe DC when he says stuff like this, like no one there's no sport that's as tough as wrestling can be. Like the training and what you have to do and the conditioning you have to put yourself in to be like a NCAA top like wrestler in the country. And it said Kane was number 5 and number 4 respectively in
Mhm.
2005 and 6. Like that's some that's hard to get there. You have to do a lot of work and it's not easy, especially in that weight class. Um, and he's just bringing that mentality into the octagon. And he's like, okay, you want to beat me? Like you're gonna have to work for it. It's not gonna be easy, and you're gonna have
Mhm.
to get up and then throw your punches, and maybe you'll hit me. And yeah, I just think that whole like mentality, like I don't know, like even Kobe, like he made people work for everything that they put on him. For when
Mhm.
he was in his prime, like 5 to 10 years ago, like he was fun to watch because he would just put that pace, and then there's like, okay, I'm gonna break you mentally, and then we'll see what you have left. And I think Kane was a perfect example of that too. Um, but yeah, man, I loved Kane, and I think we should point out too the reason why we picked Kane, and we should have probably did this at the beginning, but if you're still listening, mainly because it's in response to Mexican Independence Day, and he was one of our favorite Mexican-born fighters ever. But also because of some of the stuff that's been going on personally with him in the past couple of years, which we have to bring up, um, which sucks because of all the great things we just said about him and what he's done in his
Mhm.
career. But for those who don't know, actually, Dan, if you want to summarize what happened, if you have anything pulled up. If not, I do. Um,
You have it pulled up, so I'm gonna make one statement, and I'll let you say your piece, okay?
yeah.
Free Kane. So go ahead and you say your piece, Jim. But if you have it summarized, well, yeah, I could add to it, but go ahead. You probably have a
Yeah.
better.
Well, I don't want to read it off the. I could. I mean, anybody that wants to, all the information that we have is on Wikipedia. You can find all this stuff and go down
I
your
just don't know
own.
all the details. Details. So was this someone that worked at the daycare that his son was at?
So
Was his
yeah.
son?
So Kane and his wife have 2 kids. One of which is a 4. Well, now he's older, but at the time a 4-year-old son,
Hmm.
and they were sending him to daycare, which was family owned by some a woman. I don't know the name offhand, but apparently Kane, or at least the family, found out that the son of the woman was molesting their son. The son of the woman that owned the daycare, who I think lived at the house. Um, and yeah, Kane found out about it, and I think they took all the necessary measures to call the police and report everything. And I'm pretty sure the man was arrested and then let out on bail or whatever it was,
That's
awaiting
probably what set
trial
him
and
off.
stuff like that. and it seemed like he was probably going to get just let off with, you know, like a sex offender thing. He had to put his name in the registry or whatever, and it was going to basically end up being a slap on the wrist for the guy. And Cain wasn't having it. I don't necessarily blame him, but so on February 28th, 2002, Velasquez allegedly shot a man in Santa Clara County, California, and hit an unintended victim. The man whom Velasquez allegedly intended to shoot was the man that was molesting his son, and this man's name's Harry Goularte Jr. And he was arrested prior to the shooting for allegedly committing child sex abuse on Velasquez's son. So he was trying to shoot and kill him, and he happened to be with his father in the same truck at the time, and actually Cain ended up shooting the guy's father by accident with non-lethal injuries or anything like that. But so obviously Cain got picked up and arrested for attempted murder and also some gun charges. And so he at first the judge wouldn't allow bail. So he was stuck in jail for a long time. And then the judge got a bunch of letters from people from the UFC and DC, Daniel Cormier, and people from his gym saying that he's a good person and he's not a threat to society or anything like that, and that they should let him out or at least allow bail. And I think they allowed that. They allowed him to like fight in some pro wrestling events in Tempe, Arizona. And recently he's had recently, I think it was in September, so like real recent, early September, he pled no contest to all the charges. And I didn't know what that meant exactly, so I looked it up, and basically, I'll just read it right off of here. A no contest is a type of legal plea used in some jurisdictions in the United States. It is also referred to as a plea of no contest or no defense. It is a plea where the defendant neither admits nor disputes a charge, serving as an alternative to pleading of guilty or not guilty. A no contest plea means that defendants refuse to admit guilt but accept punishment as if guilty. So he's not. He's taking a guilty plea basically.
I feel like the perfect thing to take in this circumstance, because you feel for him and you probably do exactly what he did, but like you said, you just can't do that in that way. But it's just one of those things where, man, you, the fact that anyone can even judge someone in that moment, you don't know what. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. You just want to hope it all gets.
I don't have kids. I want kids in the future, but I think if you asked anybody that does have kids, if they found out, especially a guy who, has fought his whole life, like if, I don't know, you ask any father, hey, someone's molesting your 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old daughter, son, whatever.
Yeah, just took the kid's innocence. Like,
yeah, what do you think the first thing that comes to mind is in that father's head? Now, I'm not saying that
that's what I mean.
you should act out on those thoughts, right?
No.
Obviously, you shouldn't, and this is obviously where Cain went wrong. He should not have acted out and because, who knows? Maybe one of those bullets, ricochets off something, kills another 4-year-old kid on the side of the road. Who knows? Like.
And that's not the intent of what he's trying to do, but you have to understand that's why this is still a crime. Like, it's just, but you never know. Like, if it would be real nice if he just waited, and then the next day he just sees him and he just ripped his head off his shoulders, and then you go, I get it, but just put no one else in danger.
Yeah.
Like if you want to take it into your own hands like that, just make sure no one else could get hurt.
Yeah, man, it's just tough that yeah, because I don't know, but I totally get it. Like, I would want to kill the guy too, but that's never the answer. That's never. Well, yeah, it's never the answer, man. Like,
in this circumstance, you probably want it to be, but I understand. Yeah, you're right. It's like no, it's just But it's really got to burn you when you see someone getting out on bail that did that, like that's like one of those things where you're like, really? That's so you that they should not be allowed to get bail for something like that until you find out exactly what happened. What the really?
Or
I don't
also,
know.
like, they shouldn't be able to go near the daycare that his mother owns anymore. Like, they shouldn't allow that guy at that person's at her house anymore.
Like, let's dig into the whole thing. Like, so has this happened before? Does his mother know that he has an issue? Does she just not care?
Yeah, is she
Like, what's the
enabling
issue
it?
here? Exactly. Like, what's going on here? Because the family business is children. So if your son has an issue with that,
Yeah,
then he has some type of problem. So where does this stem from? A, and then B, why is he even involved in your process? You should be so far away from that. What, he's gonna act like you don't know any of it? Like that's what probably makes someone snap. It's just all these inconsistencies
yeah,
where no one else has to do what they're supposed to do, and they're doing it to such an egregious level where they're doing, like you said, possibly enabling something like that, and then no wonder someone goes postal if you're going to be giving them no other option. Like
yeah.
I couldn't imagine what that's like to find out that happened to your son. Like, but
But then,
it's one of those things that
also,
yeah,
like, if you're out there willing to kill this guy, you also have to think of your son, man. Like, so what, you're going to go to jail and your son's not going to have a dad anymore at 5 years old?
that's where you yeah that's where you have to yeah
I think
that's the toughest part
having,
about it.
yeah, having your dad around is more important than that guy's life, you know? Um, so it's just, yeah, and the chances of him reoffending and doing something to some other kid is like pretty high, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know the statistics. I'm not like a psychological, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what these numbers look like, but I'm pretty sure reoffenders, and especially in child sex abuse cases, it's pretty high. And
Yes,
I don't want anybody really to do this, but if you want to, you can go online and find all the polka dots, the chicken pox all over your town of sex offenders, and it's
we're
really
riddled
scary.
with them.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend looking at it, but they're I'm sure there's one in your neighborhood. Um, unfortunately. So yeah, it's
Good night,
just
everyone.
yeah, that's the end of the episode. But yeah, it's just unfortunate that we have to bring this part of his life up. But it's also the most relevant, not most relevant, I should say, most recent thing that he's been dealing with and fighting. So we did have to bring that up as well. But I mean, as far as his talent in the ring and what he's done as an athlete, two-time UFC heavyweight champ. I heard he's a great pro wrestler too. He's always loved pro wrestling, and he fought in like
That's
the
cool.
Luchador League in Mexico, and he did some stuff with WWE for a little bit. Um, but one hell of a fighter, man, Cain Velasquez, especially for Mexican descent fighters. I mean, it was either him. Who else were we talking about doing? It was either him, Miguel Torres. Was there? I think there was another one we talked about maybe doing this episode on.
Did you say Diego Sanchez maybe or someone? Who'd you say?
Oh, you
Someone?
said Diego one time. That was one of your
Yeah,
ideas. Yeah, that'd be an interesting one to do too. But I said Miguel Torres.
yeah. Miguel Torres was dude. He was awesome in WEC. Holy
Yeah.
shit, that's a.
I actually listened to a
Uh,
podcast with him recently. He was on is it Travis Luter? Does he have a podcast?
it might have been him, but I want to say it was someone else.
Oh, Chris Lytle.
Thank you. Lights
Lights
out.
Out. Yeah, Lights Out podcast,
Yeah,
which is great.
'cause he does one of the bare knuckle promotions. I've seen him on that.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about what a great fighter, dude. He was awesome.
Yeah.
In that time too that we were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. But Kane,
Man,
man, Kane, dude, much love for Kane. Oh, I have a couple other things I want to bring. Well, one other thing I wanted to bring up really is I like looking through these old cards that he was on. So when he won the championship against Brock, UFC 121, did you already look at that one?
no.
So the main card was obviously they were the main event, but Jake Shields and Martin Kampman,
Okay.
Diego Sanchez and Paulo Tiago,
Oh, Thiago. Yeah.
Matt Hamill and Tito Ortiz, Brendan
Wow.
Schaub and Gabriel Gonzaga.
That's funny.
And then
That's funny.
preliminary cards, you had Court McGee, Patrick Cote, Sam Stout. Yeah, a bunch of great fighters.
Sam Stout was fun.
Yeah.
Good fighter.
And the other one I have pulled up here,
Gilbert
UFC
Eiffel.
UFC 155 when Cain won it back from Dos Santos. That card was, oh shit, I just hit something by accident. So yeah, that card was
155.
so ready for this one?
Yeah.
Jim Miller and Joe Lozon.
Oh shit.
Tim Bosch. Do you know Costas Filipao?
Carl Constantinos Filippo. Yeah, I remember him. You remember him?
I'd have to see his face. And then you had Yushin Okami and Alan Belcher. Derek
Oh yeah.
Brunson and Chris Lieben.
Oh shit.
Eddie Wineland
Eddie.
and Brad Pickett.
Oh shit.
Jamie Varner and Melvin Gillard. Miles Jury and Michael Johnson. Todd Duffy. Max Holloway fought in the prelims on Facebook against Leonard Garcia.
Oh, remember him?
Dang.
Yeah. John Moraga. He was good.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, yeah. Some names from the past. It is cool to look up those cards though, because it was only 12 years ago, but it feels for like a long time ago.
Yeah. And then also, just to end off, Cain's last fight was against Francis Ngannou.
Yes.
In 2019. Which is pretty wild that he fought Francis. Because we were just talking about that earlier. Like, guys from today that would be cool to fight Cain. And Francis was obviously on that list, and he did fight him. But wasn't that... Cain was like... He had a knee issue or something. It didn't look good, right?
He hurt his knee in that fight.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
With the way he was, like, yeah. But I mean, maybe something else. Maybe it was in, like, the stability was. I think he seemed like he might have always had some knee issues.
Yeah.
I think this was just what happens when you run the way he runs.
Huh.
He doesn't, people could say they train hard, and then you probably train next to that guy. You're like, oh, no, I don't. You know, I can't say that if this guy is doing that.
Yeah, right.
Like, he's probably something different. So, or at least that's what everyone kind of would talk about. But no, he was just an absolute legend, man. Hopefully everything in the personal end and all that, the legal end and all that works out, because you know, with a lot of context, I think that thing can kind of be, especially with someone who probably has no prior issues with anything at all. This is all just completely just an isolated incident.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you know, that holds any weight. I don't know, because I doubt he has any type of a violent past other than his career. But, you know, hopefully it works out, because he just seems like a great dude. He doesn't seem like a bad guy at all.
Yeah.
Like all accounts. So
well,
hopefully
it says
it works out for him.
his sentencing hearing is scheduled for October 18th of this year. So keep your eyes and ears open to hear what the judge has to say. And I have a feeling he's going to go away for a little while.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It is what it is, man. Everyone makes decisions, and we got to pay the consequences for those decisions,
Sure.
whether they're good or bad. You know. So.
Yeah, whether you agree with what they did or not.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Yeah. So yeah, I wish him nothing but the best.
But yeah, Cain Velasquez, man, one of the best to ever do it. Let's wrap up there. We're just over an hour, so.
Okay.
Dan, thank you for doing this episode with me, and it's always good to talk to you.
Oh, likewise, man. Always fun to talk to you, man. Looking forward to this card coming up too.
Yeah, we got Contender Series tomorrow night as well, so check that out if you haven't seen any. But if you're still listening, thank you. We appreciate your support and everything. If you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube page. And those handles are at @pinnacle_combat on both. Yeah, we'll do one next week. We'll do at least one. We'll probably do a post episode on that one, because Dude, I can't wait for those two main events. That main and co-main. I'm looking forward to that.
I love daytime fights.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line.
Forward to it.
So, yeah, and then we got 307 the following week. We'll do a pre and a post for that, as we always do. But thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. Peace.